Hi, this is Sandra, and welcome to Lee Street View. We have a special guest, Miss Deborah Wright Powell, and we want to welcome you here to our show. Thank you so much. We really feel blessed. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, and thank you so very much, Sandra, for having me. I'm excited about being with you guys this day.
Wonderful,
So
wonderful.
T, you kind of got us introduced to Miss Powell. So tell us a little bit about the connection here.
Okay, the connection is me and her husband went to school. We met at Loyola when we were both going to school. And we've been friends for, wow, at least over 20 years, wouldn't you say, Deb?
I would say so, yes.
Yeah, over 20 years. Every time we have a function, we invite them. She's a retired school teacher now. And I believe you taught special ed, but I know her more as a singer. She does,
Okay.
for better or lack of term, I don't know, jazz singing. I know she sings with the trio, but I'll let her tell you about her bio and her background and what she does and maybe how you incorporate your singing or your musical talent into teaching your kids.
Thank you so much. As they call you T, I call them Tinder all the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Call it Teddy.
I'm trying to keep it a little bit of anonymity.
Has a little rhythm to it, you know what I'm saying?
Keep
Yeah.
it real.
Absolutely. I was very blessed because at a very young age, as a child coming from Rockford, Illinois, there was always music in my family. I have 5 other siblings, so there's 6 girls, all girls. And my mother and father constantly would sing around the house or dance around the house. And we were very heavily brought up in the church, Pilgrim Baptist Church in Rockford, Illinois, where my uncle, the late Reverend Dr. E.H.E. Gilbert, pastored. And so we were always doing activities in the arts. Our parents encouraged us not only vocally, but to pick up an instrument. And so one of my sisters played viola. My first instrument was percussion, the rudiments of drums. From there, we continued to be active. In the church, there were so many different activities. We sang with the youth choirs and that type of thing. And I want to say, while I was in middle school, there were auditions for the a cappella choir. And let my grades tell my age. I auditioned with my back to the choir director because didn't have much confidence in myself. And little did I know that he was amazed by my performance. So I had found out that I had received a call maybe a few days later from a gentleman who was already in the high school a cappella choir to congratulate me that I would be maybe number 3 of African Americans to come to a cappella choir to increase my skills vocally, where music became such a part of my life. So in high school, then this gentleman, he was a Swedish director, Floyd. I'm trying to think of Mr. Floyd's last name. However, he met me before class and started teaching me classical because he spoke to me about you could be another Marian Anderson.
Wow.
And at that time, that was such a compliment. No one had never really talked to me.
It's still a compliment.
Oh, I think it truly is. That he started teaching me class cantate dominos, all kind of terms and how to use and sound out sounds. And the interest began to build on me musically. And from the a cappella choir, I was also selected to do the selective choir, which was the madrigal singers. And the madrigal singers came from a selected group from the choir to perform. By my senior year, I was very blessed to go to all-state choir, which was, you had to be selected from your school and choir, and you were sent to a college. I went down to Northern Illinois University, where I met people all over the state that were also excited about music and different genres, and it just really turned me on so very much. And so that was, I think, the beginning of nurturing me in music. From there, I got a little partial scholarship. I did an oral presentation for the National Cosmetologist Industry of Black Cosmetologist Industries in Rockford, where I won 3rd place. using
Wow.
my vocals and my speech. And it sent me to a Black college. So, you know, I think very highly of Black universities and college in our landscape.
HBCU?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Right.
Benedict College in Columbia, South Carolina, which was one of the top 10 of small private Black colleges down in the southern area.
Mhm.
So there, I just bursted. You know, I was going in sociology, but as the choir director knew, I came as had a little scholarship. He asked me to sing, and I was doing something classical, and then he brought up another girl behind me who was doing the more hoo-hoos and the deep, rich sounds, and I was like, whoa, I'm digging on this. I had not
Right.
heard that sound, you know, much because I came from a small town, Rockford, Illinois, where we didn't hear a lot of it.
Mhm.
So that began my adventure of wanting to know more and seek more and be about maybe disciplining myself. And they were so my minor was voice, musical performance, and they kept saying, "No, you're missing your calling. You need to major in it." And I was like, "No, I'm just good enough for a minor." But long story short, friends from college took me to New York City, where I met Broadway. And baby, I went to Broadway and saw a live musical production. I think it was West Side Story.
Okay.
And I was totally turned out. I was turned on so much because it was like I was looking at the orchestra, I was looking at the performers, and when I heard, I said, I can do that. My life continued to turn as I came finished college and came home, and I received a call. Would I like to audition for understudy part in The Wiz? And,
Wow.
and this was coming up in the late 70s, you know, and I said, yes, of course. So it took me to Chicago, Illinois. And that's how I came into Chicago, not really landing a spot, but then getting a call. Would I sit in as a understudy in case it was needed? And that just totally changed my life because I wanted to know more and more and more. What happened then, one of the big band leaders in Chicago, his name was Red Saunders, heard my voice, picked me up as a vocalist. And in Chicago, the music scene is like this for vocalists. One musician introduces you to another musician. And from that musician, if you're good or if you build your repertoire to be have a variety of things in it, you're able to move to whatever the next scene might be. So I want to say from Mr. Red Saunders, I met a guy by the name of Nate Vincent, who was playing saxophone in his orchestra. And Nate ended up picking me up as vocalist of his group called Central Power System. And at that time, Nate would put me on the stage with him. I knew nothing about talking to an audience. While the band was perhaps trying to get to the next tune, he'd say, "Talk to the people, Deborah. Talk to the people." And I was like, "Talk to them about what?" And, you know, so it began with
stretch.
Hey, how you doing? You know, and from that was the steps were just building as I continued to build. And from there, I would meet another musician as Nate, and that took me to the next spot. Finally, the band decided that I was with that they were going to cool out for a while, and I found myself saying, "Deb, if you want to continue to sing," I had no people that were in the music industry, so I needed to venture myself out. So I started going around Chicago, sitting in, and I remember sitting in the 80s, 70s, late 70s, 80s. If they gave me a drink, maybe that was my pay. Or if they gave me $15 or $25, you know, and from there it moved from 25 to 50 and stuff like that.
Just trying to build.
Yes, trying to let people know that you could sing. And people would say, "Oh yeah, you have a good voice." I want to talk about one of the highlights in my life. Right before I got out of college, my great uncle and aunt celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary at the Great Pilgrim Baptist Church on Indiana, I believe, in Chicago. The father of gospel music, Thomas A. Dorsey, was the musical director there. And so my great uncle asked me to sing a song at his ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
And while we were having refreshments downstairs, someone walked up to me and gave me a card. And the card said, Thomas A. Dorsey, author of Precious Lord, Take My Hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at it and I looked at them. I said, where is he at? And they pointed across the room and said, right there.
Mm-hmm.
So I made my way over to introduce myself. And he says to me, why don't you come and see me? Why don't you stop by my office to see me?
Mm-hmm.
And I was living with my parents in Rockford, Illinois, but my aunt and uncle lived here in Chicago. So I went to my parents and said, Mom and Dad, can I please stay up here? I really want to talk to this guy, Thomas A. Dorsey.
Mm-hmm.
So my parents were so supportive and loving. They said, well, you stay with your aunt. And I'll never forget that meeting. I was very blessed that on a Wednesday afternoon, I went over to that church where he was in his practice room. And he was playing when I entered the room. And as I stood there, because I wanted to be respectful, he said, do you know anything about my music to me? And I said, a little bit. He says, well, what do you know? I said, Precious Lord, Take My Hand.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to sing it, and abruptly he cut me off. Precious Lord, stop, sit down. And so I stopped, sat down. He kept playing. He said, do you know about why I wrote this music? Why I wanted this music to be heard? I said, no, sir, I don't. He said, talked about him gigging around places, and was with his trio or with his group playing when he received a call back in Chicago that his wife, who was pregnant, was in labor, and that they didn't know if the child would live or not. And so by the time he got on a train, he said, and made it back to Chicago, and by the time he got to the hospital, not only had the baby died, but his wife died.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
He said, I honestly did not know what to do. And as I sat down and as I grieved, these words came to my mind. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, and let me stand. I am weak, I am tired, and I am worn. And as he told me this story, he said, now I want you to get up and sing. Guys, what an experience I have in my life to say that I had the experience of meeting the gospel, the father of gospel music.
He is the father of gospel.
Oh, absolutely. And I had one other celebrity meeting, which was finally I got out of college and I didn't have no gig or no job. So I came home to Rockford. And when I got back, I said, I can't just take Rockford because it was just very slow. I didn't see many artistic things happening musically. I was trying, but I told my parents I want to go to Chicago. And my mother had two sisters living there. So I stayed with one of them, and I gave a call to the record company, and just so happened that somebody picked up the telephone first and said, yeah, can I help you? And I was like, what? And
Didn't expect anybody to answer, huh?
Right, exactly, because I wasn't sure. And so, but anyways, long story short, it was Curtis Mayfield.
Oh,
wow.
Great Curtis Mayfield. It's Chicago's own.
Oh, that's exactly. And I was like,
so much.
Great. So as I was talking to him, he said, why don't you come on down and see where I'm at? And once again, with God mentoring me and molding me and making me, I was able to go and meet him. And he said, you have a gift. As Thomas A. Dorsey told me before I left out the door, he said, this is profound. He said, if you want to be a singer or a vocalist, get used to hitting your head against a brick wall. And I was like,
good advice. That's good advice.
And little did I know it would become more real as I would go along in my life. So I want to say, especially to young people, because after I started teaching came later on in life when I met my husband and began a family, and I needed something solid because music career, I was hanging out in a little studio apartment, going out singing and making a few dollars, just enough to pay my little rent and hang out. But then once I married and I was going to start a family, I needed something solid. And that's when someone asked me to substitute for them in teaching. And I said, I'm not going to teach no kids, but never say never. Because look what happened. You know, so, and through that, God continued to use me because I was able to then, where I went to teach do assemblies with children, teaching them the basic rudiment of music, just knowing what a whole note is, or half note, or quarter note, looking for different type of genres. I not only like soul music, I like classical, I like country.
I see you scat too.
You take a line now, take a bow, honey.
Yeah, I was taking a look at some of your music, and you remind me a little bit of Sarah Vaughan. You know, I think, you know, my father would have loved to have, you know, heard you. You know, you remind me of Sarah. You remind me of, you know, Billie Holiday. You really, you know, Patty Austin. You know, really just have a beautiful voice. You're in the Chicago trio. You know, S. Hacker, I just wanted to kind of introduce her. You know, she used to be in a band.
Okay, well, come on, let's talk about it.
Yes, again, I was happy to be a member of my high school marching band, Jackson Olin High School here in Birmingham, Alabama. And then I went to Alabama A&M, which is an HBCU, and I was in the band there. Yeah. So I was able to, you know, do a lot of things. You know, the thing about music for me, it breaks you out of your comfort zone, and it does it so subtly, you don't even know that you're out. But once you're out there, you're like, I can deal with this. You know, I like this part of me. That's what music does for me. It slowly breaks you out of your comfort zone, or whatever zone you're in. If you're angry, you go hear some nice music. It changes your mood. Right?
Absolutely.
They have a lot of like music therapies that I have a couple of friends who are nurses who use that for burn patients.
Yes.
You would think that, you know, music therapy for burn patients, but it works because it changes your mindset.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you were so right about that, because many times I tell people it's almost like going into a real romantic cloud. Mm-hmm. And as things, you know, as you get deep, one instrument may turn you a certain way, or a sound that you hear may make you dance a different way. Mm-hmm. And it moves you, and it moves that down in your soul. You just,
exactly.
You got to do it. Mm-hmm. You got to let it come out of you, because it's within you. You know,
it's your gift to share.
You must share that gift. So I'm just so always grateful that I when I talk to God, I say, I thank you for this gift, and use me so that I can touch somebody, maybe help make a difference to them in some kind of way, that they want to try more, or they want to live better, or they want to reach out and believe in themselves so that they can accomplish what they need to accomplish in their lives.
Exactly.
There was one other little story that I love. I was doing a little gig in a little place, and it was Father's Day. I'll never forget that. And so I went in for the first set and opened up. I said, hey, happy Father's Day for all the fathers out there. And if there's anybody, I always take holidays as starting anew. So if anybody's out there, or future fathers, this is your time. Little did I know, there was a guy sitting there who him and his significant other had gotten to an argument and had not spoken for a few days. And after my first set was over, that was fine. But I went back to set. There was 3 sets. I went back to the second set. And as I came out of the second set, this person put their arms around me as I was getting ready to leave the stage. And I said, oh, thank you. They said, no, sister, you don't understand. I said, me and him have not spoken in a few days. And he called me up and said that you said, this is a time to be renewed, because it was Father's Day. And why don't I come down here and listen to this girl that is singing right now? And I came down to join him, and I'm going to just thank you for what you said, what made us come together. But, you know, that touched me so much. I went in the back where I had my coat and stuff at, and I literally got on my knees when I got back. I said, you know, God, thank you for using me. Because many times when you come, I came from a very religious family, and many times people think, oh, she just out there singing. Or, you know.
Sometimes you don't know if you're touching people. And then when they let you know, you know that your gift is
supposed to be,
being
the
used.
gift is supposed to be used everywhere, not just limited to a church or to a refined area. And I was so touched that here I was in a little place, just about maybe 50, 75 people in it. But I was
changing lives.
Yes. Maybe was able to touch somebody, made my little $50. And went on,
you remember the $50 too, right?
Girl, you know, I put a little bit in my putt-putt car.
Okay.
I
picked up some. Come on home.
Hey,
still got 10 or 15. That's good.
That's right. And Scooby Dooby Bop all the way home, you know.
Exactly.
And so, you know.
So Deb, I want to ask you. There's a lot of people, young people out there, and you know, like my granddaughters. They have a talent to sing, but they're not there. They tried out for The Voice, you know. They tried out for what's the other one? You Got Talent. You know,
Mass.
Yeah. So what do you tell them without breaking their spirit? Because I used to produce shows, and you know, and that's a hard line, and say, hey, you know what, you're just not ready yet. And you try to be kind to them, but because it's family, and I'm telling her, you have a talent, but you need to develop more. You need to go to school. You need to have a backup plan in case this won't be the career is going to be able to sustain you. What would you tell these young people?
Tendo, I would tell them to always follow their dream. If music is what they want to do, then you need to learn as much as you can about the subject that you want to.
Right, learn your craft.
Learn it every which way that you can, inside out. So that means, yes, they need to make sure that they get the rudiments. They need to get the basic training. And you can get, I'm very blessed that I'm in a wonderful church choir, happy to say Holy Angels Catholic Church, where one of my mentors, who is the musical director, Tyrone Pittman, is a phenomenal director that takes you through vocal training. And so sometimes you have to tell the young people, you need to get into a choir. You need to get into a group that can give you all the main, the basic things that you need to learn. How do you warm up? Me, mi, my, mo. You know, you need to learn the basics. Or do you know when a note is going up or a note is going down? See, people will tell you, oh, she sings. But the real singers are able to transpose too. The real vocalists are, if they're playing something out of your key, do you want it to go a step high or do you want it to go a step lower? And you have to know what that means. And then you're able to, the more you know, and the broader you build your repertoire, the more valuable you'll be.
Right.
But you know, in these days and times with like T's granddaughters who are so talented, you know, they look at the internet, they look at, you know, so many artists have come from the internet where they just kind of, you know, establish their own channel, put their own music out there. And so when you say hone your craft, you know, some of them get notoriety before they've already honed their craft if they're out on the internet. So I think at that point, you know, they feel like, well, you know, I've already made it. But somebody like you know, you studied, you know, and you continue to study, and everybody who mentored you continued to educate you. So they would possibly get those opportunities after the notoriety. It's kind of like you got the lessons with the notoriety.
Very true, and you're very right. In today's group, they do put up snapshots on the computers, do their own thing in their rooms even. And there's you hear a lot of great talent, but sometime in their life, if they're gonna get to the main stage, they're gonna have to know what they are doing and how you can vocally bring that across to the musicians that are in the pit playing for you. Do you want the bass line to walk with his boom, 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 boom? How you want it? Do you want the drummer to give you a 2 or a 4, or, you know what I'm saying, or a 1 and a 3?
Right.
Don't be like James Brown off the beat.
Okay, exactly. Come on. And you know what? He's one of my favorite artists.
Yeah.
You
I
know.
was happy to get to see him perform. I was,
Ooh, girl.
yes.
I was once asked who were my favorite writers and composers, and I said, oh, the three B's. They said, who said? I said, Beethoven, Brahms, and Brown. They said, who's
Okay.
Brown? I said, James Brown.
Maceo.
Exactly.
Maceo, you better come on. But
so Deb, you know, I had the pleasure of meeting Jennifer Hudson.
yes.
And I know a lot of people said that she was a diva. I would just say my interaction and my experience with her was that she couldn't have been nicer.
Yes.
She was very considerate. She was humble.
Yes.
And she was very gracious. I met another Jennifer. She wasn't that way. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
But in your opinion, who do you think is probably the top 3 female vocalists that's out there?
Today?
Wow.
Huh?
Woo! There is so much I'm really digging on now. There's some great vocalists out there. But who I focus on, I like the messages of NDRE.
Okay.
I like her.
Oh, I love her.
Okay.
I also
Like SZA? Did you like her? You gotta like SZA? What? Come on now. We gonna go down that road. We gotta get them all.
That's right. But then as you go on your jazz, if I go into that category, you know, Diane Reeves.
Yes, definitely.
You know, and I thank you, my sister Sandra, for mentioning to me about Sarah Vaughan, because many people when I perform say, you're a little Sarah Vaughan, or they'll say that they've my voice as the people that you had just said that I sounded like. So I've been just very grateful. I mean, I like those vocalists that I had called out, India Reed, her, Mary J. Blige. I listen to a lot of folks. I even, my girl, who I'm trying to think quickly, who a lot of times I like some softer music, Sade.
Yes.
And I like the meanings what they talk about, what the music's supposed to be about. And so I just have a big variety that I try to listen to, a little country, a little jazz, a little classical when I want, you know, I still.
I'm a big Andrea Bocelli fan, and I have a lot of his music, and I saw him in person. And, you know, you got people like Heather Headley who perform with him. You know, a lot of people have to understand that there's a lot of African-American artists that, you know, are in classical music. So, I mean, I like the fact that you are so diverse. That's awesome.
Definitely.
So yeah, so here we are in Chicago. I was trying to, you know, also musicians have to try to remake themselves over. If you want to stay current, if you want to keep your trade going, you need to reinvent yourself.
Right.
So right before this pandemic happened, we had just cut the Chicago Jazz Trio video, and I was working on another one who I'm presently working on right now. Been working with great musicians from professors at Columbia College downtown Chicago, as well as at College of DuPage. I wanted to work with people who were mastering their trade because I wanted a different type of sound, accent, dynamics. And in that, you know, I mean, sure, I love it sometimes sitting and just jamming with folks that just jam. But when you want to arrange, you want to look for a certain sound that is new, or that's a little pop, pop, sharp cuts and curves. And so you want to be with people who are working on their craft just like you continue to work on yours.
Exactly.
Each
So
one.
I thank you. I'm thanking you, and I'm loving y'all too. I like your spirit. I love to talk about music because it totally it turns me on. What was so funny about teaching when Tyndall said that I was a teacher, I would get up some mornings wanting to do music, right? So I'm just trying to get dressed, and I'm And then I'm like, girl, you got to stop this. You got to go to school. Okay. So I was catching myself.
You didn't teach the kids how to scat, really?
Girl, you know what? But I would think, good morning to you.
Right.
And they would be like, oh, we like being in Miss Powell's class.
Okay.
You know, she sang to us. So it was so much a part of me that I'm still every day just grateful for the gift and however I can use it. What I find myself, or my husband will say to me, you need a producer or you need an agent. I said, but nowadays,
Tell Dave to be the agent. Keep that money in the family. Let him be that agent. I can tell him how to be an agent. He need to know how to be an agent.
Well, the beautiful thing is I'm married to an accountant. Take care of the money, baby. Take care of the money.
Exactly.
That keeps me being able to do what I do. And I think, I'm very grateful to having a beautiful husband and a family as well. I have a supportive sisters and family members and church family and neighbors and everyone. Whoever it is that asked me to sing, I've done for every funeral, every birthday party. But I love that they ask me.
Exactly.
Well, I want to ask you right now, since we got you on here a little bit, if you could just, like drop a few bars or something, bless Lee Street Beat with your beautiful talent, maybe.
Well, I'm digging on the scene today here. It is so beautiful out. I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and every one of you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see sky of blue and clouds of white. The brightest day, the dark sacred night. And then I think, what a wonderful world.
Wow.
Thank you.
Right back at you, darling. Love you right back.
Definitely.
I can only hold a note in my hand. It's a note now.
But you guys got the right.
And it's a Sam song.
Right. Exactly.
You guys got the right.
We want to thank you for coming on Lee Street Beat. We gotta have you again.
Definitely.
Because you got a lot of knowledge that you can drop to a lot of people, young and old. And I really appreciate it. You taking your time out of your busy day to do this for us. So we really appreciate it. I don't want to thank
such a blessing.
And
definitely
we've had functions, like my wife's 60th birthday, and you and Dave were there, I believe, and I know that you sung, but I just felt I would be imposing if I asked you, but I'm not now. I'm going to ask.
Okay, good. So I'm gonna hold you to that too.
Yeah, when I come home to visit, I might impose on you.
And if you know any folks out there that
so somebody say, hey, I need somebody to sing.
There you go.
I'm gonna give them your name and your number, and they can get in contact with you. Because you've been blessed with a gift. You've been blessed with a gift, and unlike some artists, they've squandered, and you really cherish yours and you relish it, and that is what I really love about you.
I'm so grateful. Thank you, Kendall, and thank you, ladies, for your love.
Us at Lee Street Beat, S. Hacker, Sandra Tucker, Deborah Wright Powell, and T the Man. Until next time, stay safe and be kind. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye,
peace.
God bless.